Hey everyone, this is Tim Fiola. I'm a senior sales engineer here at Network to Code, and I'm really excited to cover today's topic with you. We're going to discuss how to use Nautobot's RESTful APIs. This demo is primarily aimed at newer users to give them an example for how to use Nautobot's RESTful APIs. Now, we won't be able to cover every detail, but we'll cover enough so that a new user will understand how to get a list of devices and how then to add a new device into Nautobot using the RESTful API calls. Here's the itinerary we're going to cover. We're going to talk about how to use the Nautobot API documentation page and how to create and use an API token. Then we're going to use that token to craft a GET call that will retrieve for us a list of devices from Nautobot programmatically. And then we'll build on that and craft a POST call to create a device in Nautobot programmatically using the RESTful APIs. Let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we're going to do is create an API token. This is going to act as an authentication method that is included with our API request into Nautobot that will authenticate the request. Now, if you're a new user or you're not a power user of Nautobot, you might not be able to create these for yourself. You'll have to get it from your sysadmin. But just for completeness, we'll go ahead and create an API key right now. So I'm going to go down to the NTC user. I'm going to go to the profile, and I'm going to go down to API tokens, and I'm going to add a token. And I'm not going to go ahead and put a key in. It'll create that for me, and I'm going to make sure it's write enabled. I'm going to make sure it expires in 2025. The month is 06, and the date is going to be 05. And the description, I won't add a description for this one, so I'll go ahead and create this. Now here is the token. I'm going to copy the token, and I'm going to bring this over to Postman. Postman is a piece of software very widely used within the industry that allows users to test their API calls before they work them into script or other automation. So let's go ahead and set it up right now. First, I'm going to go over to my kind of collections area here, and I'm going to add a new collection. And it's going to be a blank collection, and I'll call this API demo. I'm going to go to authorization, the authorization tab, and for the authorization type, I'm going to specify an API key. Then for the key itself, the key value, I'm going to say it's an authorization key. And I'm going to add the value. The value is going to be token plus the token name, the token value that I just created in Nautobot. So I'll paste that in here. Great. Now I will go ahead and save this. Perfect. Now that we've got that set up, let's look at how to craft an API call. And to do that, we're going to take a look at the documentation. In Nautobot, on the bottom bar here, in the lower right-hand corner, you can access the API documentation by clicking on this little API link right here. So I will go ahead and do that now, but for time's sake, what I did is I already opened this up in another window because this can take a few seconds to load. Now, as you're looking at the API calls on this API home screen, it can appear a little intimidating because there's a lot of information here, but I'm going to show you how to kind of navigate this to get to what you want. First of all, notice that the top level API endpoints are in alphabetical order. So it begins with circuits, and as I just scroll down here pretty quick, then we see we're in the cloud section here. So cloud comes after circuits, and so on and so forth. Now I've scrolled down into the DSIM section, and I'm going to keep scrolling down until I get to devices. You'll notice that I've already opened up the DSIM devices, the GET call for the DSIM devices. There are a few different types of calls. This video is going to cover GET calls, which is used to retrieve information from Nautobot, and POST calls, which is made to add new information into Nautobot. The put, patch, and delete calls are outside the scope of this specific video. But hopefully after watching this, you'll have an idea of how to use those as well. For this get call now, we're going to use this to help craft our get call API call that we're going to test right now in Postman. To start that, we're going to first grab our Nautobot URL, this, and in this collection we just created, we are going to click on these three dots right here and go to add request. And it's going to ask us to name the request. We're going to call this get devices. To start the URL, we'll just paste in the initial Nautobot URL. Then we're going to add at the end of that, the API, and then we'll take a look at our documentation here. Then dsim devices onto the end of that. Dsim devices to the end of that. Great. Let's cover authorization now. We specified the authorization, the token already, in the collection. So now we can use that by, when we go over to authorization, we can just say inherit the authorization from parent, which it defaulted to. So it'll inherit the authorization from the parent, that token we specified earlier. Great. Now let's go ahead and give this a whirl and see what comes back. Okay, we got a good result. You'll notice that down here, we got a response 200, which means okay. And if we hover on that, it shows us that the request was successful, and plus it's green, which is always good. So hooray. Let's understand what it is we got back. Excuse me. Let's understand what it is we got back with that response. This was a retrieval of all the devices in Nautobot. So this is telling us a few things right here. First of all, we got 989 objects back. And here are the results. And if we scroll down here, we see for every device, for example, this is the name of the device that came back, this AMS01 device. And there's a lot of detail, a lot of attributes that came back with that call for each device. You can search these if you go up here to the magnifying glass, and we're just going to search for display. You'll notice that there are 50 occurrences of display that came back. This tells us that essentially that 50 devices came back in this response. Given that there are 989 total devices, what does this mean? What this means is that it gave us 50 at a time by default. This is to prevent you, the user, from accidentally asking for a ton of information, so much information that it locks up your automation. There are safeguards in place to prevent that. So by default, Nautobot is giving us 50 devices at a time. Great. So this is the first 50. How do we access the second 50? You access the next 50, group of 50 devices, by looking at this next link right here. This is telling us that if we want to get the next 50, this is the URL call we use. And if I take this URL, copy it here, add a new request in our group here. I'm going to just add a request. I'm going to paste this in and send that now. And what comes back is the next set of 50 devices. So in this case, it's telling us, hey, this is your second set of 50, and so on and so forth. So you could run this multiple times to query to get all the devices up to the 989 total devices we have in here. So you can keep using that to grab more and more devices from Nautobot. And that wraps up this part 1 video on making GET calls to Nautobot via its RESTful API. Stay tuned for the part 2 video, which covers crafting post calls to add a new device in Nautobot.